Huck it in the chuck it bucket. Yeet, yeet, yeet. Huck it in the chuck it bucket. Yeet.
Welcome to Bad Polo Pottery. I'm going to show you how I make an assassin's teapot and all the mistakes I made along the way. An assassin's teapot has two chambers you fill with different liquids. You prevent one side from pouring by creating a vacuum when you cover the vent hole at the back. Please do not try to assassinate anyone with this teapot. It won't work, and here's why. The liquid level in the pot will be the same as the liquid level in the spout, and when you pour, the vacuum only affects the liquid in the chamber, and you will end up pouring whatever's in that other side's spout into your cup. In order to make an assassin's teapot, you'll need to know how to make a teapot, how to make a closed form, and how to roll out a slab. I won't be teaching you these things, but you can laugh as I make all these mistakes. Mistake number 1 was using reclaimed clay, which you can see wobbles all over the place. When this started wobbling like that, I said, "Not today, Satan," and I forced it to my will. Eventually. Anyway, the important part about making the assassin's teapot is that you make the closed form, and then you make that closed form look like a teapot by adding a spout and a handle at the leather soft stage, probably. Leather hard's a little bit too far. You can make your closed form any shape you want. You could make a tall cylinder. You could make a round ball. What matters is that the spout you make has to start at the bottom of the pot and go above your eventual liquid level. I made mine a little bit short, a little bit squat. I'm also forming the top so that it looks like a lid sitting in a gallery. It's still a closed form. It just looks like a teapot with a lid. I think it looks pretty good, considering where it started. Okay, buckle up, friends. This is where I make all the mistakes, starting with this spout. I didn't soak it, and I cut it wrong, and I didn't leave myself enough of a belly. You'll see how I tried to fix this later on. It didn't work. The other mistake, the biggest mistake I made in this whole process is that I let everything get too dry. So in this particular part, nothing is going right because everything is too dry. And you'll see that later because I end up having to do something totally out of the process, like this. If I had it the right consistency, I should be able to cut right through it with this wire tool, but it is too dry. So all I can do is mark it with the wire and come back with a knife, which I did, which made it a little bit crooked under in the bottom. And we tried to fix that with clay. And I forgot to put the handle on, which is a big mistake. And I put the holes in when I put the spout on, which I shouldn't have bothered with since I had to redo them all anyway when it was split in half. Off screen, I did roll out a sheet of clay, so once I get this, see where it's too thick there and there's not enough room for the liquid to come out of through the spout. So I try to fix that by fettling out a little bit, and you see my hole isn't quite in the right place, so I kind of had to fix that too, which I shouldn't have had to do. I should have just put the holes in after it was split in half. So basically, you're going to cut the holes on each side because we're going to put a piece of clay in between both halves, which knocks it off round. That's why you can't really make a lid in a teapot unless you cut them both in half. That's why you want the spout and the handle on, which I don't have, so that they're evenly on each side and you can line up the holes. And so I just trace it out here about a 1/4 inch away so that I've got enough clay to press back and smooth out and seal. This slab is about 1/8 of an inch thick. I probably should have rolled out and flattened the edges of it after I cut it out here so that it's more like a 1/16 of an inch, and then maybe it wouldn't throw it so far off round. And the channels, the holes that I've made, that'll make the tunnels, they would be a little bit more room in them. And my spout would end up looking like a pig snout. You'll see that later. Yeah, I should have rolled it out, and I should have cut back the spout just a little bit. You see on that slab there, I should have just cut that back a little bit so that it pours better and you can't see the split. Now I'm putting everything together. Let me talk about the handle. The handle I ended up making is a hollow tube. I extruded a cylinder. That was a little bit too big. I should have just made a thick coil and attached that a little bit thicker at the top, thinner at the bottom. And then when I had it split apart here, I would have been able to make the hole in the body and then dig a channel through the handle on one side so that it would have that airflow and then the hole at the bottom of the handle. Another mistake I made was putting that hole a little further away from the edge. It should have been right at the edge, and then I wouldn't have had to make the handle so wide that it looks bulky compared to the rest of the teapot. I had to make it a little bigger to cover that hole and still be centered. So you'll see with this teapot, with that handle, the right side of the pot is controlled with the handle, and the left side is controlled with a hole at the very top of the fake lid. So when I cover the fake lid, the right side chamber pours out. When I cover the hole at the bottom of the handle, the left side chamber pours. I've often thought about how I can make this work better. In the dragon teapot, the right side hole is just under one of the wings, and you can cover that with your finger while you hold the handle with your left hand and pour. And then for the left chamber, it's at the top of the handle, and you can just cover that, and then the right side pours. Sometimes I think maybe I should just make a big hole in the top, and when it splits in half, then it can go that way. Filling these things is kind of a nightmare because you have to use a funnel. There's really no other way to fill them. You can fill them through the spout, or you can fill them through the vent hole, but in the case of this one with the vent hole at the bottom of the handle, that's not going to work. So I have to fill this one through the spouts. I'm just going to show you a little bit of all the messy process of putting it all together. I should have cut the spout way back here. You'll see that later when it looks like a pig snout. I'm trying to fix it with a paintbrush and a very fine knife. The way I get around taking it out of round like this is by putting on embellishments like the dragon. In this case, I used flowers, and it actually turned out pretty good, except, the handle being too big and the separating slab being a little too thick and everything being way too dry when I put it together. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll try to get to them. This is how I do it, and this is my third one, and it's the only one that really hasn't turned out. Oh, when you put the spout on, do not put 5 holes in there for like a colander thing. Just one. If you put more than that, it will not work. It won't create the vacuum. Thank you for watching Bad Polo Pottery. Have a nice day.